It is 6:04, so ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, you give us some
Okay.
topic.
So today is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. It is 6:04, 18:04, and we will call the meeting to order. So starting off with correspondence. Um, so on Sunday, B. Eliastim has organized a crafting day for kiddos in town. That will be this Sunday. It's going to be held at the old schoolhouse building, and that's going to be from 2 to 4 o'clock. We also received correspondence from Pat McLean regarding the transportation questions. She had reached out to the director of Neighborhood Connections. Pat may join us a little bit later to discuss kind of how that goes, but it does sound like they're open to having some discussions as to how they could potentially support us in transportation area. Um, Also, there is the WCO is hosting a meeting with the representatives. That is also going to be on Sunday, the 14th. I believe that is from 1 to 3:30. So there should be a little bit of overlap with the crafting and this event at the meeting house for meeting the representatives. And that will be kind of nice because kiddos can get dropped off at the school and parents can go to the meeting house should they want to and be able to advocate and talk to some of the representatives about any, concerns or questions they may have. So those are two pieces there. Sally Newton sent some email inquiring about cross-country skis here and being able to use those. So that's some correspondence, and I will get to the changes to the agenda after public comment. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move along to changes to the agenda. So I'm going to apologize in advance to our minute taker, Meredith. I guess I could say we have Heidi, Bob, Dan, Jan from BCTV, Michael Pelton are the people for a roll call that are on the meeting currently. Um, so I apologize because I want to add a couple things to the agenda. Under the superintendent's report, Bob, you may be touching base on Act 73 in the December 1st letter in your report. So, but I just, in case that's not in there, I want to make sure that is, we're touching on that. I'm going to add as well transportation and the skis and crafting. So that's just going to be under new business. And I think we'll start off with the superintendent's report and Act 73 update, and then move to the December 1st letter, then do the budget because there may be information shared in there that might be helpful to the budget. Does that sound reasonable? And then Heidi will jump right into it so we can respect your time as well.
No worries.
So perfect. Dan, is there anything did you have correspondence? I might have jumped over that. Is there anything from your end or any changes to the agenda that you want to see?
Nope, not from my end.
Perfect. Okay, so let's move on into new business and get to the superintendent's report. So go for it, Bob.
Thanks, Abby. So yeah, those are actually two great topics to talk about. We have my cabinet report from December as well. And I think actually it was today I sent out two emails to boards today or yesterday. I'm not sure which day it was, but one of them was the recording from the VSBA webinar on the December 1 letter, which is a great resource if you weren't able to attend the webinar. It's a 1 hour thing. It's a mostly presentation with some Q&A. And it was really targeted towards board members. I learned some stuff from watching it, but it really walked through the process of how the tax rates work in conjunction with the school budget building process and what the impact of that December 1 letter is around uh, setting early ideas on yield, the threshold, and how long-term weighted ADM impacts things, and so on and so forth. But they kind of walk you through the whole cycle, if you will, of what the impact of that is. Now, to the side of that, there's a whole political piece that's also floating around um, some comments have been made recently at the administrative level in Vermont about school boards and people not being concerned about how their budgets impact everybody else because, of course, it's a sharing pool. So unfortunately, there's a lot of politicization going on right now about this. But in the end, you guys have a pretty simple task to adopt a budget, which is primarily tuition driven with some other smaller things, but it's more simple. And yeah, so there's a lot of information in that webinar. I'd urge you guys to take a look at it. I also sent out a report, the final report of the Act 73 Redistricting Committee, which is significantly pared down from their draft report, which is like 80 or 100 pages. This one is quite a bit smaller. And I highlighted the three key findings of the report and actually cut and pasted some of the brief language. But in essence, they urge to not have forced mergers of any kind, and that they did not propose a map, if you will, that they believed that the legislature should consider any sort of voluntary mergers that districts want to explore that could potentially save costs, but also help improve programming for kids. They also talked about the second thing was about regional collaborative models. And Abby, you may remember at an SU meeting, the SU joined the new BOCES for Southeast Region, which is the first one in the state, crafted on the new law to allow for BOCES. A BOCES is a Board of Collaborative Education Services. And in essence, what it means is that we can share resources with other SUs in our region. And the Southeast region is like Windham, Windsor counties, even up into the Upper Valley. As far north as the Rivendell School District. So it's a pretty big area, and we can build programs together that will help hopefully contain costs for special ed programming. We can do PD together. We can do all sorts of stuff. The sky's the limit. So that will take effect on July 1. And every SU in that region has joined at this point, so which is very cool. And then the third thing that they talked about was the concept of regional high schools, and the idea that regional high schools should be, they didn't say there should be fewer high schools, but what they said was there should be regional high schools based on geographic areas of need for kids, and that those high schools should be sort of built up to assure that every student has access to quality programming, equitable programming from school to school, and CTE access as well. So anyways, that's another element of this. So what that means and what the legislature will do with that is really, it's great that you guys have meetings with your representatives, because that's a great opportunity to say, hey, what do you think this means for you? What is your logic? And are any of your legislators involved in any of the committees that could be involved with this kind of stuff? So it's a great opportunity to have that coming up, to be able to ask those questions and push them, because it's really completely in their hands now. And we will have to sit back and see what the session brings us. So I think that's it. Happy to take any questions folks have.
All right, Michael, I see your hands raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw some mention of a lawsuit that was mentioned in the newspaper there. I was wondering if you might touch base on it. I know it's not district related, but it's SU related, and therefore it may or may not have some sort of relevance.
Yep. I mean, so the short version is that there was some families, or there's a family who had some concerns about some HHB stuff that happened at Leland and Gray a number of years ago. They went through several processes, one at the school, and then unsatisfied with that, they went through the Human Rights Commission. And the Human Rights Commission. Can you
just explain HHB? I know what it is, but
sorry. Yep. Hazing, harassment, and bullying.
Thank you.
And there's a law that sets forth the specific policy on how schools have to follow through on reports of that. And the family felt that there wasn't sufficient work done in the way they would have liked it. So anyways, they filed a complaint with the Human Rights Commission, which is a state agency that oversees, in essence, equity and that type of thing. And that they do their own investigation, and they recommend an outcome. And then that outcome is either accepted or not accepted. And then if that outcome is not accepted, then the family can, and HRC can file a lawsuit, and then the lawsuit can either go through to, actually be heard in court, or it can be mediated. And what we had was a mediated settlement. So what you saw was a financial mediated settlement between the the West River District / WCSU, and the family, and I would say that the funds that were paid out through the school district's insurance provider and not through local funds. And that's really all I can really say about it, because the mediation is confidential.
That answer your question, Michael?
I believe so. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Now just to touch base, I know you did talk about the December 1st letter, Bob, but just in case, like same thing with the acronyms there, just a nut and bolts of what that letter was, who it was from, who it went to, and just a quick idea of what the December 1st letter is. I will be forwarding that to Kate to send out to people so they can read it themselves if they haven't already, but just so that folks are aware what that means. And I think that'll segue into our budget probably with some.
And to be honest, like, Heidi's actually better situated to be able to answer that question as far as the specifics of what that letter means. And this is sort of the communication from the tax department that sets some of the parameters for us in budgeting is in essence what it is. And by statute, they have to provide that information to districts by December 1st. But Heidi can get into a little bit of the weeds around what those items are, and then how that plays out. That actually is a great segue for you guys.
Yeah. So, and then I'll just add so that with Act 73, the task force made their stuff, legislation's meeting in January. There's a lot of pressure for things to be done, and action to be taken. So for folks to be being aware, and as Bob had mentioned, I would encourage anybody that is available to attend on Sunday who wants to have their voice heard to some of these representatives to make the effort to be there. So with that, I guess we can move on to Heidi here, and you can highlight some more stuff for us, please, and thank you.
Sure, yeah. So the December 1st letter is important to business managers because the state is issuing numbers that are important for all budgets, including the excess spending threshold, which is the per pupil cost of which they expect you to fall under. And if you don't, you're penalized on the difference added to every per pupil. So if your per pupil cost came out to be $150 more than what the state put, so it was $16,570, that $100 would be added onto the per pupil cost, and that's what your town would be taxed at. So that's what that excess spending threshold is. It came back last year after being halted around COVID time, and it's the state's way of trying to control rising spending costs. Another number that's in the December 1st letter is the yield. And the yield is essentially the formula that the state puts together to make sure they raise enough money for the education fund. The education fund money goes into the pot and it pays out to make sure it's to try to enforce equitable spending around school districts. The problem right now is that the last 2 years, the ed funds, reserve funds were used to buy down tax rates. Last year, they used 118 million. And this year, they're indicating that there is some revenue shortfall to the tune of maybe 2 million. So while the yield they give us is an estimate, which comes in at 8849, a little higher than what we ended with for 26, there's an indication it could go down. And if it goes down, tax rates go up. And that has not much to do with your individual expenditure budgets. I mean, it does in the sense that we report back to the state what everybody's expenditure budgets are and the per pupil costs, and they look at what is needed to raise out of the ed fund, and that determines where the yield falls. So they give us an estimate under the December 1st letter, but they don't set the yield. The legislature doesn't set the yield until May or June. So that's an important number we look for, but it doesn't mean that it's written in stone. The December 1st letter also talked about how much they're expecting tax rates to go up this year. I believe they mentioned 12%. Every school district is different depending on what their CLA is. Windham's in a pretty good shape in terms of the CLA. You had a reassessment, I believe, a year ago. So the state is now taking CLAs, putting a statewide adjustment to it, and this year it's 70%. And then you get a higher number if you were reassessed, it's higher, to determine what your tax rate potentially will be. And of course, when I do these budgets, the numbers I'm putting in and the expenditure budget that I would ask you to vote on to bring to your voters is written in stone, but there's fluctuations that can happen after we do that. And so, all of this is really important. Taxpayers need to know that they need to be looking at all of these things and take into consideration what they're voting on come town meeting day. So that's kind of an overview. Abby, does that kind of answer what you were hoping for? Okay. So if we want to take a look at so I sent you a bunch of documents. I sent a first draft or potentially your final draft of the budget, depending on what you think. I sent you a tax calculator worksheet, try to determine what I estimate the taxes may be based on the information we've been given. I want to point out that your long-term weighted ADM, which long-term weighted your average daily membership, and that has to go with the amount of students that are counted during October, has actually gone up from 30.61 to 39.96. You and West River are the only school districts in our SU that your numbers went up. Everybody else has been losing enrollment, but Windham is not. They're gaining. And so that's a good thing. It helps with the decreasing of per pupil costs. So if we want to take a look at the draft budgets that I gave everybody, sent you in your email. And by the way, they are linked on the website. So anybody in the community can go onto the website for Windham and find these documents. Your budget is obviously scaled down tremendously. There's not a lot in it. The biggest thing is tuition. And I should mention that your current tuition that I expected for this year is being overspent. There are a few more students for getting tuition than I expected last year. So that is over budget for the current year. But for fiscal year 27, I have projected potentially 4 pre-K students. And so I've budgeted that in the beginning on the top section, which is pre-K.
Would you like to share your screen? Because I know we have a lot of stuff and I'm flipping through trying to see which one you're looking at. So,
okay. Sure. Let me see if this is going to work. I have so many multiple screens. I'm not sure. Screen share, host disabled participant. You disabled participant screen sharing.
Daniel? Because it's not letting me.
Oh, right. He started this, so he might. I'm not sure if he's. I think Dan does have to let me share, but I don't think he's right there.
Dan, are you available to allow Heidi to share her screen?
Oh, yeah. You should be able to do that too.
It's not letting me do it, so I don't know.
Okay, try it now. Sorry about that, guys.
No, that's great.
All right.
You should have permissions.
There we go. Thank you.
Yep. You see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So this is the expenditure budget for Windham. And so I'm just starting with the pre-K section here is at the top. And we have just one expense in pre-K, which is tuition for pre-K students. And I have proposed 4 students at the, this number was also in the December 1st letter, which is 4,106 is the 10 hours that parents are allowed, that is paid by your school district towards kids attending a private pre-K. So that's that section. Then we go down to elementary. So currently, I have 10 students. Let me just move this over. And I had estimated, they have not done announced tuition yet. That should be coming this week, but I just estimated it at 20,076. And then we have two lines because there's students that attend private, and then there's students that have been attending within the SU. So I have budgeted a total of 440,000 or 441,000 set aside based on the students that are attending. And then I added in one phantom student, hoping that that will be high enough to cover what we expect next year. When we get to the elementary special education, or this is all of your special education costs. So Windham Central's assessments, instead of breaking out pre-K and middle elementary and secondary, it's all in this line item right here, 1201. So you're part of the SU MTSS multi-tiered systems of support budget, which was up 3.4% from last year, but due to significant grant decreases, the amounts have gone up closer to 20% overall. And so your increase was 21,000 to 57,923 is your assessment for special ed and AST. Then we have the Board of Education. That's your school board payments for you folks that give your time to run the school board. There's insurance the board has to pay. We have communication set aside in case there's communication. There's meeting minutes that we pay for. Then we have the SU assessment, which goes for the business office and those types of expenses. Your part of the assessment went up just under 11,000. So you're paying 42,252 for the general fund of this supervisory union's budget. Then we have some bank fees. That's usually the amounts that your bank account doesn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in it most of the year. So there are some bank fees, but you also make some interest. So it usually outweighs, but this is where that goes. Okay, let's see. The audit, I have funded it at 8,000, which is pretty much flat funded from last year. Legal services, I have at 6,000. You have had last year, you were up to almost 10, and I wanted to continue to err on the side of caution because we haven't seen the building change hands yet. So it's a number I think can go down in the future, but I also know that other things can come up. So I flat funded it for this coming year. Finally, there is transportation. So there's employee training and development, which is getting the CDL, doing any trainings that have to be done for your bus driver. There's now non-technology and repair that I flat funded at 10,000, but due to this new bus that you purchased, or this used bus, but new to Windham, there hasn't been hardly anything. So hopefully that number could go down in the future. Again, erred on the side of caution. I can change that. There's insurance for the bus, and then the purchase services is down here. 19,000 that's set aside for your bus driver. That's salary and benefits. And then 6,000 for gas, which is a little more than what was spent out in 25.
So there's a bunch of stuff. I know we just kind of went through that, and I know you're going to talk about the next section here, but it's diesel.
Yes,
we don't use any gas for anything. So is it fuel or diesel? Can we change that? Because that's very misleading. That we don't have a gas bus, that haven't ever that I know of. And then I wouldn't mind. You can finish what you were saying there. After that, you have the redemption of principal. And then I think we'll probably go back to the beginning and have some questions, if that's all right.
Right. So I was going to say the budget comes out at 595,000, which is 17.52% more than the current budget year, mostly based on tuition. And then I was just going to go up here to the revenue, but I'll stop at expenditures and let you ask your questions.
Okay. Well, I have noticed, Michael, your hand has been raised. I know I have a bunch of stuff here, but go ahead and ask your question of Heidi first.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. One is I didn't see on there, and maybe I just couldn't see it because it's micro print on my phone here, but I didn't see any revenue related to a sale of the old bus, and I'm wondering where that stands. And then I was wondering if you could talk about the transportation revenue from the other supervisor union that we provide transportation to. And then the other thing that I wanted to discuss is dues and bank fees. I know it's pocket change in terms of the entire budget, but I've noticed from my perspective as a select board member and seeing paperwork come through the select board, we get all kinds of stuff from the treasurer, and sometimes there's overlap and whatnot. But I've noticed that are instances where I see like dues, like late fees and things like that. And I'm wondering if that's something that's being actively addressed, and also like delay in payment. So like for instance, the like paying the mower and things like that. I noticed that there's like some significant like blocks of time where those bills aren't being paid. And I'm wondering if we're paying extra because we're not paying on time in a timely manner. Thanks.
Okay, so let me start with revenue, which we haven't talked about yet. The bus, I guess, was your first question. And I spoke with Greg recently about that, and he said that it was on, Cord was taking care of it, and he hadn't heard anything from Cord, and he was going to reach out. But Cord said he wanted to do X, Y, and Z with it, and so it's been in Cord's hands. I can ask Greg to follow up, but I didn't have much of a part of that, and so I'm not quite sure where it stands. We hadn't looked at the revenue. The revenue side shows the 7,800 from West River. I know back in October, I've looked back at my records, October meeting in West River, I believe they told the Windham board and sent an email saying they wanted a number from you. I then followed up and sent the paperwork on how we had come to that figure, and I don't think anybody has followed up on that. So it's still at 7,800. There's still a transportation subgrant for 11.5, and there's interest for 500 on the revenue side. When it comes to dues and bank fees have to do with the fact that there's not much money in the checking account most of the year, and they charge fees. You do get interest on the money that's in there. Your treasurer, your school treasurer, which I think is your same as your town treasurer, has the ability to look into that. I have worked with the bank to decrease the amount of fees, and they are working with me. That's M&T Bank. We're keeping track of that on a regular basis. But if I took it out of an IntraFi account, because it really didn't need to be in an IntraFi account, and that's where most of the big fees are. But usually you make a lot of interest because you're usually talking about $1 million, where Windham doesn't have that. And when it comes to late bills, the only time I know of any bills that were getting paid late were in the summer when the board wasn't signing off on paying the bills because there was no meeting. You don't really have a lot of bills now that you don't have a building. And I worked with Kathy Edgerly on Rick Wetzel's bills because they had taken over the paying of the groundskeeping. So I guess I would want to be able to see the specific penalties or fees that you're talking about. As far as I'm aware, as soon as we get bills, we put them through and get them paid that month when you have a board meeting. So I am not aware of a lot of incurred penalties or fees that have been paid, unless it was over the summer when there was things that didn't get paid timely.
Well, there was been billbacks after billbacks after billbacks on our end that we see. So I don't know if that's relative to maybe what they're seeing through the
Maybe
town
the
of there just being a time gap of when it's coming through and coming toward to us.
Sure. The billbacks, Wyndham Central pays those on your behalf and then bills it back. So it's paid when it's supposed to be paid. But it's usually the times we do billbacks is when all the school districts have a similar, like legal fees through our lawyer. There's one big bill and we figure out who owes what, but we pay the bill and then we bill back. Sometimes in the past, for instance, when Greg has gotten mulch for playgrounds, we pay the bulk of the bill and then we get reimbursed. The Windham Central gets reimbursed back into their fund for that expense. So the billbacks aren't things that are being paid late. They have been paid by the Windham Central Supervisory Union and then out of their own funds and then bill back the school districts.
Can I follow up?
Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to accuse you of not paying the bills. That's not what I meant. I'm sorry if that came out not necessarily the most friendliest. I apologize. On a side note, I know that the town of Windham, we had M&T and we had some challenges with fees and whatnot. And we did make a move to another bank, and we noticed that we made significant amounts in interest and didn't have the fees associated with those accounts. So it might be something to look into. I know we're like making much better interest at our current bank. So I would encourage the SU to look into moving away from M&T if that's something you can and are willing to do.
So Michael, just to follow up, your school board treasurer would be the ones to do that. That is who has the authority from the school board. I am not the school board's treasurer. I'm not your school district's treasurer. I'm the business manager, but I'm not the treasurer. So your school board treasurer, Kathy, could look into that for the school board and make that decision in conjunction with letting us know and working through it with us.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm sure she would be tickled.
Good.
And then I have a question. Michael, was that your follow-up? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good for now. I think that
Okay.
the one thing is the $700-800. I find that particularly odd given the meeting I heard, but that's besides the point.
So the other concern that Heidi, you had just mentioned that you don't know about the bus that Cord knows. Cord is, and I mean no disrespect to Cord, I adore him, but he is the hired bus driver. So how anyone would give the bus driver all of the information financially and have him deal with what's going on, I think our board should be directing for that to happen, and that is not the case. So Bob, I'm not sure if you can shed some light here, but we need to know what's going on with that. And if that's a Greg thing, I mean, I think we should, especially if there's revenue and we need to know what needs to happen with the bus.
Yeah, I'll talk to Greg first thing in the morning and see where that's at, and I can report back to you guys.
That would be awesome. And then, so they want us, so the other district wants us to come up with what we feel would be more reasonable, and that's not, Heidi, when you had said you had sent something, I'm not sure what you were talking about regarding any recommendation as far as that.
Yep.
For the transporting. So we definitely, please, that would be great. And so that's a concern. And I think when we're looking at the budget, we're already looking at numbers from what we've seen so far. If there's pushback and things to cut, the reality is transportation is one of the things that would be what would go. So I want to make sure we are doing everything we can to have as much information available to folks to understand what we're doing, and that it's collaborative, and it's not feeling very collaborative, but it should be. Because if that goes away, then And that's a potential we could be looking at as well. I'm not sure, Bob. I know your hand's up, but once something happens, if there's a forced merger through legislation, and we come into one big district, this district would no longer be able to provide that transportation. So it's a very important factor for us to maintain and continue, and how that will look going forward. So I just want to make sure we've got all the dots dotted. So yes, Bob.
So just to clarify, so the West River Board, what I'm hearing her say is that they asked you guys to come up with a number, and Heidi sent you that formula she had used in the past, and it should be on the Windham boards. It's basically it's in your court now to propose a counter, is what I'm hearing. Heidi, is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is true. The email that Drew sent to the board members said, we are looking for you to work with the central office to come up with a number and bring it back to the SU board. And so a few days later, I followed up and said, here's the calculation I did. And then I figured there'd be questions, but I haven't heard anything back. And I don't think anybody has gone back to the West River board.
So,
Like I said, I didn't see that email. So if that's there, I can dig and look for it. If you could resend it, that would be great. But yes, it's important. So we need to figure that out.
yeah, so adding the West River transportation revenue as an item on your next agenda. And then, after you had a chance to look at that email, look at the formula, then I think that's a great opportunity for you guys to come up with a number that you want to ask back. Whatever help you need from us, please, once you have that email again, find out what you need from us prior to that meeting, so you can go into that meeting with your understanding of how it works, and then we can help you propose a number. You can come up with your own number, and then we'll send it back to them. But it's not too late to do that. I don't want you to. If it's extra revenue, the number goes up and you get extra revenue, then you get extra revenue. That's a good thing. So,
Yeah, it's not, feasible currently the way that it's going now. It's not going to be feasible if we don't make a change. So, which is not going to be helpful for us as a board to pitch continuing to do it to the town and getting that to pass in a budget. So that's my concern. It looks like everybody froze on my screen. So, okay, maybe not. Maybe you guys just paused at the same time. So I'm sorry if I'm glitching out. I think the internet here is a little unstable. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Hear you?
Okay. All right. Phew. Now there was the SU assessments when you were talking about under the direct instruction for special education, the variance of 58.88%. That is a lot higher than it was last year, correct?
Well, let's see. Yes. Yep. Because it went from 22,522 to 36,452. So that was the change of about 15,000. And this time it's up 21,000. That is because the overall special education budget is up 3.4%. And the amount of grants from the federal government that we are expecting, we are looking at a loss of about 700,000 for next year. So I sent you a document that listed some of the reductions. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. That was part of the SU changes to the MTSS and general fund budgets. Reductions, trying to get down as low as we can, as I'm sure you understand with the MTSS budget. There's a lot of special education that we have no control over. There was salary increases for under contracted staff as 5%. There was health insurance increases, 7.4%. And so those are impacting the budget substantially. We also had to move some of the staff that were paid with grants previously through this year, partially into local funds. Due to that loss of revenue coming in. Right now, I'm expecting to have Title I funds and IDEAB funds, but we are not expecting Title II or Title IV. That could change, which I have my fingers crossed, but I'm not planning for it. So that is where you're seeing the big increases this year for the MTSS multi-tiered system of support budget.
Yes. So one of the concerns with that as well, in looking at that going up, but there's also, I mean, like almost half of our student population that was once at the school that was kind of covered. We're at half of that. So we have like half those students that are there, and now it's gone up like 30%. So I
We
get,
still we still have to provide special ed services for those students that are in private school.
Mhm. Yeah, so just because they're in private school doesn't mean we stop providing services. We pay, the services follow.
okay. Um, Now, where's my, I got scribbles everywhere. Michael, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
I was wondering if you could compare the assessments that we are getting and receiving from the SU to other school districts, so we can see them in comparison to everybody, so we can make correlation between a lot of us, I guess. And then wondering if you could also explain to us what the supervisory unions like surplus looks like, and if they've used that surplus or if that surplus hasn't been used.
So we are using surplus. I'm wondering if I can pull up
The allocations for the other districts for the assessments is actually in your materials.
yeah, the packet that I sent. It shows all the different schools.
It shows each district, what the general fund assessment is from this year to last year, and the MTSS ones, and the percentage increase.
And then the question from Michael was, I'm sorry, Michael, can you repeat it, please?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could compare the assessments from the SU to our district and relate those to the amounts that the other districts are getting. So we can look at and say, okay, well, look, Windham, even though everything's gone up, Windham is like equitable to the increases in other districts, or look, Windham's getting the short end of the stick or whatever. So we can just see the comparison. That's all.
Yeah, and those allotments are based on different formulas of student counts. And so, like yours, if everyone's student count goes down and yours goes up, your percentage of the total cost will go up. And so that's a factor. So it really depends. You guys also don't, as a non-operating, don't pay into the tech or the food service element of it either. So those are less. But yeah, there is a sheet. I don't know, Heidi, if you're still sharing, can you get to that or no?
I can. I'm just trying to figure out how. Hold on. I don't know if do I stop sharing and then reshare? Wait, hold on.
Yeah, probably the easiest thing is to do that, find the other tab, and then reshare again.
Okay, hold on.
And this slide that she's going to show you was discussed at the SU meeting where the budget was approved.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see it says assessment table general fund?
Well, I was going to suggest the other one that has all the districts on it at once with
That one?
That's the one, correct? Yep.
So, right. So the general fund assessments are determined on a 2-year rolling ADM average, which is students that are in the building, because the general fund directly reflects on the students that are being serviced in the buildings, whereas the MTSS budget is long-term ADM, so it's weighted more and it is long-term, not just, so it involves, I should say, all of your students, whether they're in private, whether in the public schools. And so that number is a little bit different. So everything has a different percentage. I was just looking at the page I headed up. Your general fund percentage is 3.36 of the general fund budget, Windham specifically, based on your 2-year rolling ADM, whereas it's probably 18% for the multi-tiered systems of support compared to the other schools based on your total enrollment long-term average, 2-year average.
Can
And
I ask a
then,
clarification?
sure.
Yeah. So just for clarity, so we're one of 5, and you're saying that our student population weight counts for more than 30% of the total student elementary students. Is that what I'm understanding? We're 33% or something you said?
I said 3.6%.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was like, I don't understand. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Um, so what else do I have on here? There's that column is variance. There's a under operations of buildings, other professional services, there's a 100% variance. What is that? So,
And under operation of buildings,
all the way to the right under the variance column. I'm on the other thing. I'm back on that one.
right, you're back on the budget form, but I'm not sure.
So 2610 for operation of building. If you
Yeah.
follow that blue line all the way over 2 rows down is 100%, and I think that's the variance column. What is the 100% variance?
Why is what I'm looking at not having anything there? I have all zeros.
So the blue operational buildings is the total strip. The what you're looking at, the 100% is actually the transportation section. The blue is sort of the underneath, not the above.
Oh, I see. You're looking at the 7,500 other professional services.
It's a
Yes.
reduction of $7,500. Yeah.
Right. Yes. That was me taking out 7,500 from the current year's budget. A lot of the services for repairs was placed there, but
Oh,
we're
okay.
getting
You
rid of
explained that.
7,000. Yeah, we're just going with the 10,000 at this point.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. I was looking at the wrong section.
Yeah, well, the budget stuff is confusing when the blue line, it looks like the blue line is the heading, but
Right, and it's actually
really at
the
the bottom
total.
of the section, not the top of the section. Yeah, I make that mistake myself every time I look at one. But Heidi, do you want to put the budget back up on the screen?
Sure. Yeah.
And oh, we have Crystal. Crystal's joined us. So for Meredith taking minutes, we have Crystal's joined the group. Welcome, Crystal. We're talking budget.
If you hear noise, just mute me because it says I'm muted, but sometimes I'm not.
You got it. Thank you for joining in. I know you've had a busy night tonight, so appreciate you being here. What I was about to ask Heidi is in looking at the total number that you are recommending for us for the budget
Yep.
is
$595,130.
okay. If we were to not provide transportation next year,
Yep.
what would that look like on our budget? And is that something
We can, yep.
you
So
would take a look at?
we would take out the 37,000. I'm just going to reduce it here for a second on this budget. And then I would also have to take out the revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So you're about $1,000 difference. Your budget, hold on. I have to see the bottom line. I already forgot what it was. You were at 595 and you're at 558. So you've gone down from 17% to 10%. Yep.
And then the budget would be what? 5?
It would be 558 and $558,130.
Okay. That's a big difference. So that's something that we'll have to consider because it's a reality, especially with the concerns that people are going to have with the taxes going up.
Do you want to talk about the taxes with the numbers in before you make decisions, or shall we jump into
Oh
the
yeah, that would be great if and
Okay.
Michael, I see that your hand was raised, list it was raised and you were taking it back down.
I was just going to ask for the difference in the tax rate.
Yeah, so let's do that. Let me just put everything in because I have my calculator tied into this. Okay. So we're back to the 595. I'm going to switch over to my tax calculator here. And so with 595,000 for expenditures, you're offsetting revenue at 19,800. Your long-term weighted ADM that's gone up to 3996 puts you at a per pupil spending cost of 14,397.65, which is well below the threshold. And so we come down here to the yield, which takes it into effect and creates your tax rate at 1.627. However, your estimated statewide adjustment, that's the CLA, the common level of appraisal, due to the 70% statewide adjustment, you're at 139%. So we take this and we go down to this column right here, Windham, and we multiply so the difference between your elementary students and the elementary students for Windham versus the secondary students in the West River budget is the state accordingly tells me, and it's 69.52 is elementary and you have 30.48. So this is where it gets complicated because your taxes get broken down with your CLA but also on a percentage of how many students are in your elementary and how many are in your high school. And so this number here for the West River budget, which is still being discussed, is, and hopefully will go down, is not going to be set probably till January, is figuring out post CLA, it's 0.5, and your Windham using the tax rate, but based on your percentage split, pre and post CLA of the 139 is giving you right now a current tax rate of 1.313, which is a variance of not quite 10 cents, just over 9 cents from this current tax year. So your percentage increase is 7.58 and this is again with West River's budget, which we're sure is going to go down, but I don't know by how much. So your tax rate will go down. You are well below what the state was expecting at a 12% average. Questions about that?
So this is with what you're showing, this is the tax rate.
This is the proposed potential tax rate based on the current budget with transportation and with a budget from West River that will have cuts.
So what would this look like if we had a budget without transportation? What would that change the numbers to look like?
Okay. Oops, shoot. your tax rate would go down 2% to 1.288. So a just under 7%, 7 cents on the tax rate and 5.53. So you'd save a few, some percentages, 3 cents, not quite 2.5 cents on your tax rate.
Okay. Michael, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
Could you show us the combined tax rate just for giggles? But it's like two cents. So by like the back of my paper here, it looks like for like a $375,000 house, it's like a $500 or $600 increase. But then if you were to take transportation and make it only like 250 or $300, is that what we're looking at roughly?
Yeah, let me switch. Yeah, I have this under the West River budget. Yeah, the tax rate on, hold on one second. Let me just bring this up on my computer. So I'm not going to give you numbers that I don't feel like are accurate. So on for the potential of the West Rivers part, we're talking about $122 increase on a $100,000 house site value. So 366.
Yeah, like the I don't know what the average in town is, but I'm pretty sure there's not too awful many that fall below 350 or 375 anymore. So I've been trying to use the 350, 375 range to get a
No,
rough idea.
that makes sense. I agree with you on that. And again, West River is not going to be keeping the kind of, they're going to be looking for reductions because some of the percentages of some of the towns is over 30%. So I do expect that to go down.
The other thing to keep in mind with the tax rates is that due to income sensitivity and that your town's tax rate, that this is not going to be your actual final increase in your taxes. It's going to be they're going to be driven by those things as well. So.
Okay. So would you, Heidi, be able to, I know we can see this here. Could you send us the same kind of thing, but just to see, we can look at the two separate budgets of one with continuing to provide transportation and another where that's just not um, in the math here. And that way we can, I know we're going to schedule a special meeting coming up soon because all of this information is due to our auditors on the 7th. So our articles and everything need to be in January 7th. So we are on crunch time to get everything approved. Crystal, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
I would ask, I mean, I guess I don't know if our Windham people are seeing the emails from Kate and the board. I mean, I do, but I can't speak for everybody. But I would think maybe we could ask Townsend and Leland and Gray to send an email to Windham parents saying that it's important they participate in a special meeting because it could impact Like if you guys do away with transportation,
Yeah. Oh,
there
for
are
sure.
people in this town that more than likely will just probably stop sending their kids to school.
I hear you, Crystal, and I understand, and it's not something that I want to have stop by any means. I'd like to be able to see how this works, but we're at a time, unfortunately, of where we're at in the budget, and it hasn't made the progress to have an understanding to continue to budget, especially with so much uncertainty. That's going to be a heavy lift to get the taxpayers to agree to a budget. If we're really going above and beyond, which is what we are doing in providing this service. And it's not that I'm even saying that that's the budget we would put forward, but we do need to see the numbers. So I 100% agree with you. And, if families are busy, I don't know, I get it and I completely understand. I think instead of that they can attend a special meeting, that'd be great. But even if they want to send a correspondence to the board, everything is, you know, willing to be digested and figured out, but that is definitely important feedback that we need, but it's what we're going to be facing as a board budget-wise. So when we're done, I think that would be reasonable, Bob. I don't know how that could happen, but if at least to who would we reach out to have the families notified through the school notification?
Yeah, if you guys were to set well, whether it's your next normal meeting or whether it's a special meeting interim to have with that as an agenda item to discuss whether or not you offer transportation, and I have the details of that meeting, I can get the word out to those families through the schools.
Perfect. Michael, see your hand up?
Yeah, I'm going back to the assessment thing. I don't have the figures in front of me, but as I recall, Wyndham's went up somewhere around whatever 45 or 48% or something, and we don't even have an operational school, which is ironic that our increases would increase that much. But I'm wondering, you said that, Heidi, that the SU was using some surplus to buy that budget back, and I know that's not a sustainable thing in the long term, just to use surplus up. But I'm also kind of wondering, what does the SU need a surplus for? They don't operate a building, so they don't need to worry about funding a building or something like that. But so maybe there's some more room that the SU might be able to utilize some more of their surplus in lieu of the fact that the state is looking at reconfiguring the entire education system anyway.
So the general fund has a reserve fund of 400,000, and it is using 100,000 to reduce the tax implications of the general fund budget. The MTSS budget had 1.8 million, and that was due to the ESSER funds helping to pay for. We utilized them and saved some money, knowing that a cliff would come once the COVID money stopped. 1 million was used currently, and we are using around, I want to say 800,000 for next year. It will be running out. We'll probably have a little bit more for fiscal year 28, but it is running out. The state and I guess good fiscal management suggests that you hold 5 to 8% of an annual budget in reserve in case of emergencies. And while we don't own a building, we rent a building. So there's reason to keep a few 100,000 at the general fund level. And the MTSS, I'm sure you're aware, special ed costs can skyrocket at any time with one child or one family. And so it's important to keep something as a reserve fund. But the fund was built up by my predecessor on purpose because they knew we wanted to utilize ESSER funds while we could, knowing that eventually the money was going to run out and enrollment was going to decline and that we were going to be faced with some hard decisions. I'm sure Bob could speak to the fact that we are reviewing our MTSS structure, and we were able to find some places to reduce, and we are continuing to reassess, knowing that we don't have much longer, but still trying to make sure that students are at the central focus of the decisions we make. We want to make sure that students that need that assistance and to meet grade level expectations are getting what they need. So moving too quickly on reductions is concerning.
And just to add to that, my sense on that too is that even forget about budgeting for next year, even this year's budget, we have some vacant positions that we chose not to fill because we discovered we didn't really need to. And so we're already trying to save money in this year's budget as well. So it's ongoing and it's a struggle. And the big picture is the disconnect between, a 3% or 4% increase in expenditures and what you guys saw for your assessment increases because of the lack of federal funds. It isn't it's just a disconnect, much like when you have a low increase in your expenditure budget for your school, but a high tax implication for your town. Like these things happen, and vice versa. It looks like on the initial calculation, your budget increase was similar to your tax rate increase, but that's not always the case. So, even the West River that she mentioned, where there was 30+% increases on taxes, the expenditure budget was 9. So like, there's just not those disconnects occur. But in the case of the SU, it's the federal funding decline that's causing just really significant gaps. And with the bulk of that being special ed services being required via IEPs, our hands are tied, not in everything, but in a lot of things until we figure out better ways to do it. So that's our struggle.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I thank you for trying to figure it out. God bless you, and good luck. I mean, clearly, I don't know much about the school stuff because it's a whole different world. But I know like budgeting from the town stuff, and of course, our budget is minuscule in percentage wise compared to the school. And it's not even our school's budget that makes it giant. I mean, we send well over $1 million to Montpelier every year, and it's not because our school spends $1 million. It's just, it's funny. But I do think that given we're going to see let's say, a hypothetical 12% increase statewide, and there's maybe more, and we've seen quote unquote 40% over the last 5 years, and all that other political hootenanny. I don't know how that fits in the town of Windham, but I know I've seen our tax bill skyrocket, and I'm just wondering at the local level what we can do to sort of offset some of that. And the reality is, if we don't, we're gonna end up like sort of perpetuating the problem, because you're going to have families like mine who say, wow, I really just can't live here anymore. And then you lose 3 students or 5 students or here and there. And, all of a sudden you don't have any more students, or you have less students. It just makes the problem exponentially worse. So at some point, somewhere, we have to like tighten the belt. And I know that the special ed stuff, we can't really necessarily control because it's whatever, governed by statute in the state and so forth. But I don't know, when we're tight at the house here, we don't have, shrimp and foie gras, right? We're like, okay, we're back down to hamburger and rice. So like at some point, the SU / the other districts, including our own, need to go back down to hamburger and rice. And what that looks like, I have no idea. But like there have to be cuts, because I can tell you right now, the town of Windham, and I don't know about the rest of the towns, but the town of Windham has a very small population of residents with children, and it's not going to be easy for us to stay here if things keep going up.
So that's a great reminder. And you're absolutely right, Michael, that this challenge is all over the state, but it's acute in certain areas. And RSU is in a really acute area because it's near the mountains. And one of the things that, just as a reminder, Abby had mentioned the legislators coming and having an opportunity to talk with them. One of the things that Act 73 initiated, it's not complete yet, but was this conversation around the taxing structure and how there's basically 2 categories, right? You have your homestead and your non-homestead, but the non-homestead contains lots of things, not just, second homes, businesses, and so on and so forth. And so one of the things that was proposed was this exploration of striating the non-homestead so that that you could actually increase the rate potentially and generate some revenue for second homes without screwing over small businesses. So that is, I think, one of the things that they're exploring. And I think that that's a definite win for our region more so than other regions, and particularly in rural regions near resorts, things like that. So that's another thing to bring up to the legislators that you meet with them at the meeting house that day is, hey, we heard this is potential. Can we move this along? Is this going to be a 5-year thing or 3-year thing? Could this be done in a year? Like, what's the timeline and how do we push you guys in the legislature to speed that up so we get some relief? Because the revenue coming in from them will just help keep your rate at a more stable level. At least that's how I understand it.
Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, it did. Thanks.
Okay, Crystal, I see your hand raised.
Bob or Heidi, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe, like, Windham, I think we saw our tax hike first because our appraisals were complete. And I understand, like, I think Newfane just finished up. So they're just seeing those tax hikes because some towns are just finishing up the appraisal. So would Wyndham see that huge tax hike again?
What you have going for you with the reappraisal, and it's not really going for you because it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I just spoke with somebody in Newfane about this because they're like, well, we're getting reappraised, so we shouldn't be at 59% pre-CLA and 74% post-CLA. And I said, well, it is what it is for this coming year. But when you're reappraised, all of a sudden the value of your house has skyrocketed. And so this is one of the reasons why the state is adjusting it. And then it's using the 70% so that, Windham might be 101% according to the CLA now, but you're going to be given 139% as your multiplier for your tax rate. So that's a benefit because it goes up, whereas someone who's not been appraised and the tax rate might be at 50%, they're paying 30% higher in the tax rate, where you're paying 6% higher in the tax rate. But it's all coming out in the wash, kind of. I mean, whether you've been reappraised and now your house is doubled in value and you're being taxed at that, or whether you're considered half 50% of what their appraised is and you're getting it in the taxed piece of it in this calculation formula because your percentage of your CLA, statewide adjusted CLA, is so low. So I'm not sure there's a winner in this. I think, yes, Crystal, Windham saw huge hikes because the state has decided that the market value of everybody's home should be twice what it was. And so your increase on these tax rates is going to be a lot less than the other towns who haven't had that market adjustment. But I think in the end, it's all big hikes. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional questions for Heidi regarding the budget she has presented for this meeting? So I guess we can move on to articles, but we're going to be having. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. What is your deadline for adopting this as far as the communication with the town and your articles? It's all related to that next item.
So our articles and the budget to be finalized, approved, we have to have that information to our auditors by the 7th. So our next scheduled meeting isn't till the 8th. That's when that kind of falls in. So we have to have a special meeting. So we will be having a special meeting. I'm going to throw out for Monday, probably around noon because
This,
we have work schedule and stuff,
this coming noon?
this
This coming Monday?
coming Monday.
So,
I do want to double check though. It is the first day of Hanukkah, the 15th. So I don't know if that is going to be a challenge for folks. But we're trying to roll with availability of board members, availability of, staff to be able to attend and also give time for us to digest the information that we're getting to talk about tonight. So, but we have to make some decisions and finalize.
yeah. So I understand the lunchtime noon thing. I would just caution you guys if you're making a decision as big as transportation, and which has obviously a huge impact on families of students. The turnaround time and the timing of that meeting that's successful for families is going to be really, really important.
Yeah, and we may receive correspondence, and hopefully we do, for folks that maybe aren't able to attend. And we may have to have another special meeting again before the 7th. That's just the reality that we're in with the timeline that we're faced, and we have to get the budget done. So, and I want to put a budget forward that might actually get passed by the town versus, not and having to fight that whole mess. So, and
Right.
again,
As soon as you have that
I
date-
do not want to see transportation go away. I don't want to see that. I think it's a really bad thing for families. If that happens, it is a reality we have to face and look at the numbers for, and see how that's going to navigate, because we do not have the certainty to be able to bank on that that's going to be something that's going to continue.
All right. So will you have the date and time assured in this meeting, or will you communicate with me outside this meeting once you have it nailed down?
I am proposing
just let people
Monday
know.
at noon. Daniel, does Monday at noon work for you for the next special meeting? I did, Kate, I wasn't able to attend this meeting tonight. I did talk with her. Monday was definitely a better day for her. And again, the daytime thing is that she'll be able to do that, and get availability so she can attend. And again, that might not be, we may receive feedback that might not be the meeting to have any decisions made then, and we may need to set up a different one at a different time. But the
That
conversation
sounds
needs
good
to
to me.
continue.
Yeah.
So,
But the
Yeah,
7th is
noon.
our deadline, though.
but yeah, before the 7th, because it's due the 7th. So we definitely want to make sure we get it into them. They've got a lot of work to do, getting the town report ready and all that. So,
Monday the 7th sounds, or sorry, Monday. Monday at noon sounds good.
it's the 15th, and it's the first day of Hanukkah. So, we'll be
Well, Mazel
celebrating. Yeah, so Mazel Tov on our meeting then. So, moving on to articles, if that's okay with folks, so we can at least have an idea of what we're looking at for articles. It'll again get tweaked at the meeting on Monday, and then we can kind of crank through the rest of this stuff. Heidi, yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I have a business managers meeting up in Barry tomorrow, so I'm not sure I can get you your 2 drafts until Monday morning. I just want to put that out there.
Okay,
I mean, it's not going to take a lot of changes, but I am driving and at the meeting all day tomorrow. So, okay.
sure.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure you understood that.
Okay. Oh my goodness, me and words. Budget. That's the big word I had to struggle with that. All right. So articles. Do we have, I know Bobby, you had sent an email that we did them last year. Last year was complicated with the budget, with the articles and the town meeting. We have a different situation this year. So the standard wording, and we have, I believe, is it Kate? Who's up?
Yeah,
For-
Kate's term is up,
Kate's term is up.
and your treasurer and your clerk are probably 1-year terms, I'm sure, so those are up as well.
We, I believe, last year made it so that, and I have to double check with this,
Oh, it
but
just
that
follows the town, right?
it follows the town. So we have the town treasurer will be the same thing for,
All right.
yes, the town treasurer. Who else is there? I think that's it.
Yeah, the treasurer is elected by the town, and the town is going to have to put the treasurer up for election this year. But
that's neither here nor there.
Yep. So, and then is Daniel, are you up as well?
No. So you have
No?
one, you have one for each of the, you each are on 1 year, 3 year cycles, each ending 1 year. So
Right, but
No.
I wasn't sure if Kate was appointed, if it's that same appointed position was also,
no,
nope.
hers was Rory's, which ended in 26, Dan's 27, you're 28.
Okay,
There you
perfect.
go.
So we have article for Kate or for the position, um, and budget. So,
And I think the standard is to have an article about the ability to move surplus funds into an operational reserve now that you have an operational reserve. Does that sound right, Heidi? You're muted.
That's typically what we do.
Yes. Any surplus, there's an article that says any surplus should be moved into the reserve fund. Thank you.
excellent. Okay, so we can work on that and have some stuff for Monday. Now with that, Heidi, on that, oh, Michael, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Sorry, I want to digress for a moment. You mentioned operational reserve and so forth and surplus. I'm wondering if there was any surplus last year, and if so, what that does do to the operational reserve. And I'm wondering if there's a recommendation to perhaps take a portion of that operational reserve and apply it to buy back the tax rate to some extent.
So you'll notice in the packet, Abby, and board members, that I did put the fund balances for a fiscal year 25 and current fiscal year 26. So fiscal year 25 started out with a deficit of 23,000 in your general fund, and we ended with an unaudited, I'm waiting for the auditors to get our audits back to us, but an unaudited surplus of 68,223. Part of that was because of the ed spending error collection, and voters, the community paid 54,768 over what they should have. So that actually gave you a little bit of a cushion, because otherwise you would have ended with $13,455. So currently going into this year, we have what should be in a surplus of 68,000. But again, right now you're using up some of that because of tuition being more than what was budgeted. So right now I show an ending balance of potentially 35,000. And you spent out 50,000 on the bus from the 105,000 that was already in the reserve fund. So your potential of ending fund balances right now at this moment in time looks like it's around 90,000. And I wouldn't recommend spending any of it, because a few students coming in to Windham for tuition would totally wipe that out.
Yep. Okay. All right. So that is, we've got our articles ish. Anything else we can think of that would be article related that we should continue to?
I'm just looking at last year's from your minutes, from your town report, school director compensation.
Oh, yep.
You voted to do 1250 each. When you had the selling the building, but you don't need to do that. Obviously, the budget. You had created the operational reserves fund last year, so that's legit. So now, moving your operational surplus from FY 26 into that operational reserve fund. Would be an article? We mentioned that one, and then let's see. Then your final one is to transact any other business that legally may come before the board. But your first one, I just went back to elect a moderator, and to elect the officers, which was your one term. And I believe, I guess the West River rep is still, you got a couple of years on that one. Uh, yeah, I think that covers it. But you should review the 2025 meeting notes just to make sure. But I think that covers it. But I think you could use almost the exact same language, change you know, the date if it's referencing something. But if you need any help with that, if you want to run it by me or whatever, I'm happy to take a peek at it and do the comparison as well. So
Excellent.
if you
So we
to
could,
do it and send it to you, I can happy to do that too. You just tell me what you need from me, Abby, all right?
you got it. So yeah, I mean, I can reference the old articles that you had just mentioned, as well as kind of fill in the dots here. So we'll have that prepared for Monday as well. And that's what I was going to ask before Michael came on, is when we do have this meeting, is this something that Heidi, even though you'll get them to us Monday morning, are you going to be able to possibly attend? Or if not, just be prepared. We may have more info to send to you.
Yeah, I have a meeting ending at 12, so at the worst case scenario, I might be a little bit late, but
Okay,
my goal is to get there on time.
excellent. Um, And we do have a couple items here. Transportation, skis, and crafting. So the transportation piece, that'll be a further discussion when we go over the budget and what that looks like. But that, we're looking also into other avenues should the worst case scenario happen and we don't get to continue transportation. What other outlets can we have? And as I had mentioned, Pat McLean had talked with the director at Neighborhood Connections, and we'll have some conversations there to see what other kind of supports could possibly be available to our community. I'd like to move to approve Sally Newton to utilize the cross-country skis under the understanding that I will give her the waivers and all that stuff is done until everything is finalized and the building is actually with the town. I did get an update from Kathy Edgerly that it sounds like all this will happen before the end of the year. And I think she might be able to attend our special meeting as well on Monday and give us an update on that. But that's looking good. So that was a very positive thing to hear. But in the meantime, things that are happening, we're sticking with the waiver system. So I would like to make a motion for Sally to be able to utilize the skis with the waivers, and that the crafting event taking place on Sunday here at the building with B. Eliastem, who organized that. Also, I will go over with her the waivers so that those are all signed. So we will continue to keep that moving forward. Can I get a second on that motion there, Daniel, for the skis
Second.
and crafting?
Second.
All those in favor? Any further discussion?
Aye.
Aye, aye. Okay. Motion carries that Sally can use the skis and crafting's happening on Sunday. And to approve minutes we're going to move into old business. Approve the minutes. This is for 10/9, 10/14, and 11/13. So, I will, there is on the 13th a correction. So to make this as easy for Meredith as possible, on the minutes 6C, it says the chair had mentioned if the town is absorbed, no transportation would be provided. And then it kind of said that I was the one stating that maybe the town could continue it. And I believe that was Miss McLean stating that. So if that amendment can be made, and I'm sure that Meredith can get that done. Everything else looked fine to me. So I would move to approve 10/9, 10/14, and 11/13 with the amended change under 6C for the minutes. Can I
And
get
I
a second?
second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to financials. We have pay order number 7 in the amount of $24,605.75. This contained, the big one was the SU assessments. That was the huge chunk that was on this one. Bear with me, I have so many pieces of paper in front of me. Did I not print that one off? Ay, ay, ay. Let's see. No, I don't want that. There it is. I just want to look at the page again before I. Okay. So the bill box, but the other one was fiscal 25-26 second quarter assessments, SU assessments, and that was for $21,144.75. So we're anticipating again another amount of that going to be coming through for the next quarter. I mean, is that a quarterly amount that we're looking at, the 20 grand?
Yes, it is.
So, well, I move to approve pay order number 7, $24,605.75. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, I have just signed that. So that is done. And we will be having another meeting, special meeting, Monday, December 15th at noon. It'll be available here and on Zoom to go over questions with the budget and the articles and see where we're at with that. So hopefully that works out. Is there anything else anyone would like to add before we adjourn? Okay, well, am I seeing a hand up? No. What is that? No, my computer's being funny with me. All right, so this Sunday, reminder, last reminder, the 14th, there is the meeting with the reps from 1 to 3:30-ish, we're guessing. And then there's also the crafting with the kids. The kiddos can go and get dropped off on the 14th from 2 to 4. So, make sure everybody gets to attend those things as best they can. But other than that, I move to adjourn at 7:37 p.m. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Say aye.
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 Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Say bye-bye to Abby.
Sylvie.
She's ready to sleep.
I bet. Me too.
Same.